the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a proclamation.
We do.
I've asked Mr. Painter if he would read that.
We have a proclamation this morning for National Corrections Officer Week. Who will be accepting this proclamation? Morning.
Morning.
Good to have you, sir.
Thank you.
You bet. Proclamation, National Correction Officers Week. Whereas correctional officers have the difficult and often dangerous assignment of ensuring the custody, safety, and well-being of over 600,000 inmates in our nation's prison and jail system. And whereas their position is essential to the day-to-day operation of these institutions, without them, it would be impossible to achieve the foremost institutional goals of security, control, and whereas they are called upon to fill simultaneously custodial, supervisory, and counseling roles, and whereas the professionalism, dedication, courage exhibited by these officers throughout the performance of these demanding and often conflicting roles deserve the utmost respect, and whereas it is appropriate that we honor the many contributions and accomplishments of these men and women who are a vital component within the criminal justice system. Now therefore, we, the Board of Clermont County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the week of May 6th through the 12th, 2018, as National Correction Officers Week in Clermont County, and especially thank the correctional officers of Clermont County and the jail facility for their dedication to duty. And this is signed by the Clermont County Board of County Commissioners, Evan H. Humphrey, President, David L. Painter, Vice President, and David H. Jubal, Member. On behalf of Clermont County Commissioners, present you this certificate for National Correction Officers Week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet. You have a few words?
I do. I will always take the opportunity. Last year I wasn't ready. This year I'm ready. Good morning. This proclamation means a lot to the corrections community. It's the law enforcement division that's not recognized as law enforcement. The jobs of corrections officer often go unnoticed to the public. But these officers do extraordinary things as everyday, ordinary events. My officers and supervisors stop suicides and assaults regularly. They interfere with gang activity in the jail, and they assist outside law enforcement agencies in interfering with gang activity in our communities. There are officers that have saved the lives of civilians working inside the facility that an inmate attempted to take hostage. Not only the things that happen inside the jail, but here in Clermont County, our officers train statewide officers in defensive tactics, CERT, corrections emergency response teams. We are leading the state with these things. The public doesn't know these stories. Our county officials outside of the sheriff's office, they don't know these stories. This proclamation may be for all corrections officers, but it goes specifically to these officers that do these extraordinary actions, and all they get is a pat on the back. I'm proud to stand by them. I'm proud to represent them. And thank you, COs. Thank you.
Picture. We get the other COs to come forward.
Come on. Bring her up. She can bring the picture too.
Sir? Just saw you.
I know. How about if I go with your bag? I'm not picking a station.
I'm going to step over. I'm going to step over. Come on.
Hold your folder, man. Come on this way, guys.
Get in there.
Slide this way. Put Joe in the
Get in there when
back.
you
I don't want to
need
be in
it.
the picture.
Come on.
Yeah,
No, right now you're not in the picture, so you need to You gotta slide over. You need to slide over a few steps.
Come on.
Shoulder behind mine. Yes, sir.
Put your shoulder behind the neck.
I am, I love it.
Right here, Joe. Right here.
Yeah, I love it. This is great. It's wonderful. I can't wait.
See how you're treated, Chuck, when you come back?
Just one more for Joe.
Oh, Buffalo, yeah, I hate it. Anybody Italian here knows what that means. Are we done? Good, thank you. Jeez, I hate this.
Oh my God. Lordy. I'm telling you, that man, you stand up. He good. He bring out stuff. It's at a comedy club. It's okay.
We have several presentations today. But first, we need to approve the minutes of April 23rd and April 25th meetings. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes as prepared?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Painter.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. And the order here is Superintendent Otke to talk about the Board of Developmental Disabilities regarding the service and programs which are funded in part by the upcoming 0.25 mil renewal levy.
I believe that's .75.
Oh, sorry, 0.75. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity again this morning to come and share a little bit about our ballot initiative that is now less than a week away. So on May 8th, we'll be requesting voters to renew our 5-year operating levy, 0.75 mil levy, that provides services for individuals with developmental disabilities in the county that serve the wide range of age. So we serve really birth to death. So we provide services for those folks that receive our services, and this goes a long way to help us with that. So a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to introduce you to Jennifer Neal, a mom who brought in Molly and Madison, her daughters, to share a little bit about their testimony. Last week, we had Bethany Ritchie, a mom who receives early intervention services. And this week, we do have Krista Feelhauer. So she is going to also share a little bit about her experience with early intervention, to share a little bit of testimony for what the services have meant to her and her son. And so, and also I always never want to fail to mention with me today are Lisa Davis and Kimberly Zaz, who are staff with us that help us in that endeavor. So I'm going to ask if Krista can come up and share a little bit, and then I'll wrap things up as she finishes. Thank you. So, thank you.
Hi. A little nervous. But my name is Krista Feelhauer, and my son Charlie is 3.5. He's on the autism spectrum. This is him when he first started, Clermont County DD. He first started because he had some motor skill issues. He wasn't rolling over, and he was very delayed and didn't walk until after age 17 and a half months. But Clermont County DD came to our house weekly, helped him roll over, start walking, and sorry, I get emotional because they've helped us so much. And shortly after that, we started noticing that he wasn't speaking, nonverbal. I mean, he would cry, he would laugh, but he would only grunt for what he needed. And he wasn't making the same sounds that a 1-year-old should be making. And so Clermont County DD jumped in right away, started speech. And he's been doing a remarkable job. They helped facilitate him going to preschool. I was so nervous to send him there, but they were with me every step of the way. They helped calling the school. They even came to the first IEP meeting, which was absolutely wonderful. We would have been lost without the service. Sorry, I get so emotional because
Okay.
I didn't know. I did not know what autism was. I didn't know if he would ever speak. and he now is saying words. He's communicating with us. He's less frustrated. He loves preschool. He would have been here today, but he would have been so mad at me if I didn't let him go to preschool today. But I just wanted to share a couple of things with you. This is him now. Let me see. This is not my laptop, so bear with me. This is him now. He's big. Lost all of the chubby rolls. Super happy, less frustrated, like I mentioned before. And I just want to share a video of him. This is huge for him. Like I mentioned before, he was nonverbal.
Sing it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q. Keep going, keep going. R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, A, B, C.
He'll keep going if I let him. This was very difficult to film this video because he doesn't stand still. He doesn't sit still. But this is huge. He used to not make any sounds other than, like I mentioned before, grunting. And he was so frustrated. But the early intervention team brought that out of him. They found out that his love for music, love for songs, they just were absolutely wonderful. And they came to the home, which was the best part of the service because he's got major sensory issues. He's afraid of elevators. He's afraid of new places. And when he gets afraid, he vomits everywhere. So it's a very traumatic experience for me and him. And when they started with music with him, he still wasn't making sounds, but then he would start, after several weeks and months of working with him, to start saying keywords in each song. And I just want to share one last video. I'm sorry, I could talk about him all day long. But this video is him singing Itsy Bitsy Spider. Song now. Oh, whoops, wait, sorry.
Sing it. E, B, C.
I mean, if you want to hear that again, I got it. Let's see here. Here we go.
We wash out. The sun is again.
Second verse is better. Here it comes.
We wash out of the sun.
So as you can see, he's my heart, and just I can't express how grateful we are for this service. Once again, I would have been lost through the transition to preschool. I wouldn't have known even how to even attempt to try to get him to speak. There's no doubt in my mind he wouldn't be where he is today without this service. So very appreciative.
Krista, the preschool, is that kind of mainstream? I mean, it's a normal preschool, or what kind of preschool, or is it through DD?
No, it's in Milford.
Okay.
He goes to the regular preschool. He's in with all the other children. They pull him for speech. They pull him for OT. But he's with the other kids. He's interacting very well with all the other students. He at first hated to be in the gym playing, but they've just helped him so much to be more. I mean, he's always been social and lovey, but just with his immediate family or people that he knew. But now he's just branched out, and he has a friend named Joe. It's great. So very happy.
And you used a term there that, some people might not be familiar with. You used the term IEP.
Oh,
That's
yes.
an individual education plan. And my wife is an intervention specialist, and that's what she does in the 7th and 8th grade levels. So, that ability to start at DD with, these kind of services and then move up through the educational process on the IEP spectrum and then to continue that education to where he can be pulled from classes and given special instruction.
It was wonderful because
bet.
one of the early intervention team members came to the first meeting because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know what IEP really stood for. And so they just, every step of the way, it was great. It was really good.
Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Hope you're not nearly as nervous now.
No, not anymore.
Okay.
I just get so emotional because he's been. I mean, we didn't think he'd be where he is now, and he
It's
is.
been a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
Really want to appreciate, thank Krista for coming out and sharing that story with us. It means a tremendous amount to be able to hear that from the folks that are receiving those services. You know, and I would be remiss if I didn't take a second because, you know, I keep emphasizing the fact on the life map that, you know, you've heard a couple presentations related to the services for the early intervention families and things of that sort. But the one thing I can't and I don't want to miss the opportunity to do, which is to really share about the fact that, and with Cindy being here today with senior services, the number of families and that we support who are older, entering their senior citizen years, have been caring for their loved ones throughout those years, which means a tremendous amount. But what we have to be cognizant of, and especially as voters go to the polls next week to be thinking about, is as these seniors get older, those services, you know, we're going to have to jump in maybe to help in some of those situations, providing, if nothing else, respite or some extra supports there. So we're keeping a very close eye on that on our end, because as the baby boomer generation reaches that retirement age, as they've been providing those services throughout those years, it's something that we need to be cognizant of as we move forward. So again, thank you for the opportunity this morning. We appreciate it. Again, next week, Tuesday, it's 0.75 mil levy. About for the $100,000 homeowner, it's about $21 annually, but it is not an increase. But it certainly means a tremendous amount for us to continue our mission as we move forward into throughout this decade and the next. So.
A renewal levy.
Renewal levy, thank you.
Not an increase. That's an
Right.
important part.
Absolutely, thank you. Absolutely.
Alrighty.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Have a good
Dan.
morning, thanks.
Next, we have Cindy Gramke, Executive Director of Clermont Senior Services, to talk to us a little bit about the annual report for the Board of County Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
Want to thank Dan for mentioning the way we work together, and we genuinely do. In fact, especially in cases of adult protective services, Clermont Senior Services and the Department of DD, we work very closely together on our staff work very closely together on those circumstances to benefit those persons who in fact do have developmental disabilities but are 60 years of age and over. This is our annual report that we're sharing with you today, and I will make it concise. A few things that I do want to talk about, and that is that as of this year, we have moved into our 49th year of service. And we were founded in 1969 by Lois Brown Dale. Many of you remember Lois. And so we've been very committed to continuing that culture of service with heart, and in our accountability to the taxpayers. If you'll remember, we were the very first county in the state of Ohio to pass a levy to support services for seniors, and it was because Lois knocked on a few heads at at the State House and took a few buses full of seniors up to picket. And the legislators were kind and understanding, and have been ever since, in supporting services for older adults. And so it's because of those very early efforts that not only Clermont County, but most every county in the state of Ohio has a levy that helps to support services. All right, I'm doing what I was told.
Your dings.
I pressed the up button. The down button. Oh. See? Told you, techno-challenged. Clermont Senior Services is here to provide a very broad range of in-home services, keeping seniors living in their own homes for as long as possible, thereby delaying nursing home placement, and that saves taxpayers dollars. And in fact, one frail senior that we are serving in his or her home saves taxpayers an average of $3,000 a month if that person is not in a nursing home receiving Medicaid-funded nursing home care. And let's face it, we'd all rather be at home anyway than have to be in a facility. As good as facilities are today, we'd rather be home. Clermont Senior Services does in fact have a bias to serve. We are focused on performance excellence and being very careful and responsible stewards of taxpayer and donor dollars. We continuously assess the needs of the older adult population, and we're all about protecting the health, safety, and well-being of seniors. The typical customer we serve is female. 68% of the people we serve, in fact, are women. The average age is 75, and most live at home alone. Their average income is $1,200 per month. The youngest is 60, that is our entry qualifying age, and the oldest is 105, and we celebrated her birthday. And she happens to live in one of our housing communities in New Richmond, Steamboat Trails. We have 7 throughout the county, and those communities were built for low-income seniors, and they are owned by HUD, and we sponsor them, and we see that they're managed very, very well. But she had a birthday party about 2 months ago, 105. We here are showing just the percentage by age, and you can see that the 90-plus population continues to grow. 9% of the people we serve are 90 years of age and older. You can also see where our revenue has continually increased. In 2008, you'll see that there was a drop, and this is in the overall revenue that includes levy revenue, and we're seeing it just come up very slightly. It says 2016 at the top, but that is just a typo, because as you can see at the bottom, that reflects the 2017 annual income or annual revenue for the agency. That's the annual revenue. Let me go back to that real quick. There was a slight increase and then a slight drop in 2017. 70% of all revenue for services, in fact, comes directly from the levy, but I will tell you, the levy is absolutely critical to our ability, in many cases, to apply for other funding. For instance, we participate in the Ohio Department of Transportation's 5310 Specialized Transportation Program, allowing us to replace high mileage, high maintenance vehicles, and ODOT is responsible then for those that are awarded to us 80% of the cost of that vehicle, and we only pay 20%, and that 20% comes out of the levy revenue. And it's important because they must be local matching funds. They must be local funds in order to do that. So levy funds have that real impact up to 85% of our total budget. I will also say that the levy is the payer of last resort. In other words, if someone has Medicaid or receives funding through and support through the Veterans Administration, those things come first, because that further helps us leverage those levy dollars by being able to utilize those funds that come through those other sources. The critical need direct services, and this gives you a breakdown by program. Home care is obviously our largest program, and it's 33.56% of our budget. Transportation is 18.89. Case management, we have 14 case managers who are licensed social workers. Some maybe who have a master's in social work, LPNs or RNs. Those folks go out into the homes of the people that are wanting service, and we assess that individual because they have to meet eligibility guidelines. I would love to be able to just call up and say, I would love someone to deliver a meal to my home every day, but that's not what Meals on Wheels is all about. Meals on Wheels is about helping those who need that assistance in order to stay in their own homes for as long as possible. And they go out and they assess for the Meals on Wheels, they assess for home care, they look for other opportunities where we can assist them, which is the beauty of being such an umbrella agency, to offer so many services, and for those case managers to be able to connect in. Somebody needs help with shopping, they connect in with our volunteer department, and they've got a volunteer shopper to help them do their grocery shopping. So there are lots of opportunities available because we have that umbrella of service. Adult day services is 12.2. Home delivered meals or Meals on Wheels is 7.39% of our budget. Lifelong learning centers, these are not the what we consider the critical services. Those top services are really defined as the most critical need services. That's where we put our attention. That's where we've had to redirect things over the last 9-10 years. So if you look at those lower services, they're still very important. Lifelong learning centers, that's a place where people come in the door, and many times it's their entry point into services. So it gives them an opportunity to get to really acclimate to opportunities for socialization, but then also they're not isolated. And if for some reason their needs are changing, which with older adults, most of the time that does ultimately happen, then our staff can link them in with a case manager and can link them into the needed services. Volunteer resources, 0.85% of the budget, considering the fact that that means so much to what we do. 75 to 80% of the Meals on Wheels delivered in Clermont County are delivered by volunteers. Those are the folks who give of their time freely. They enjoy doing it. They make such a difference. And I'm going to share a little, couple of powerful moments with you in just a few minutes that really reflect how important those volunteers are. Home repair is 0.85% of our budget, and congregate meals, those are our on-site meals. A lot of times when you're out at this, at the senior centers, at the lifelong learning centers, you have an opportunity to have a congregate meal, a meal together. And that's funded partly by the Older Americans Act, and we continue to do that. And then it also represents the meals that we serve at the Adult Day Services Center. So you can see that that's also low in the percentages, but every one of the programs really is very important. For me, in the PowerPoint, I've included a lot of statistical information for you, primarily for your benefit. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at it, but I'm not really going to go over those specifically. In fact, I'm going to run right through them pretty quickly. But I do want to mention a couple of them that are extremely important. In every needs assessment where we ask seniors, what is the most important service to you? The answer is always transportation. If people cannot get to doctor's appointments, if they cannot get where they need to go, and have the opportunity to be transported in a vehicle that has a wheelchair lift or a ramp, then we have to ask ourselves if they would get to the needed medical care, and at what point really does that lack of medical care become an even larger issue. So transportation continues to be huge. As you can see, we did 55,079 trips in 2017, covering 700,853 miles. We also help to transport veterans, those who are 60 years of age and older. And last year we did 5,953 rides to 146 veterans. So we take them to VA hospital, to VA dialysis centers, anywhere where they really need that care. They have to live in Clermont County, of course, but we do take those folks to those very, very, very critical appointments. And you can see here, we have a variety of vehicles, and like I said, our replacement vehicles are all part of the 5310 Specialized Transportation Program. We also, as you know, have a contract with the Clermont County Department of Job and Family Services, and we provide all of the investigations for Adult Protective Services. And I mention this because it's very important, and we're able, because we have a staff specifically to go out and do the investigations for every case that's reported as abuse, neglect, or exploitation. In all three of those areas, we have a staff that's just very focused on that. And you can see here what's happened over the last 10 years, well, really 9 years. 124 referrals were received in 2008. And look at the jump to 2016 and to 2017. And in that very last part, from January through March of this year, we've already received 102 referrals. I will tell you that many of those referrals are exploitation, and they are directly related to, most of the time, honestly, family members, but then also those persons who either become close or are close, neighbors, friends, who are needing the funds for their own self-interest, including and especially the opioid crisis we have here in Clermont County. And there's a direct correlation there that exists. And I think it's also a microcosm of the increase in the population in Clermont County of older adults, because we continue to grow older, and all of those baby boomers are now in their senior years. I'm I think 16 days away from being age eligible for our services. So when I started with the agency when I was 25, I thought, well, you know, we're going to make sure this agency's here when I need it. So when I need it someday, that's the intent. And when everyone else needs it, we want to be there. So honestly, what we've seen is a dramatic explosion in the population of residents who are 60 years of age and older. And so what those numbers really say is that, let me take a look at this. Right now, the number of Clermont County residents 60 and over is expected to increase by 23,101 in 2000 to 51,138 in 2020. I will tell you that is where we are. We're at about 54,000 now, and that's 120% growth. We teeter-totter back and forth between the third and the fifth largest, fastest growing county in the state of Ohio for older adults. It's extremely important for us to be aware of that, and we work very, very hard. You know, we've had 3 levy renewals, so really 16 years now we've been working off of the very same millage, and we work very, very hard to be as absolutely as efficient and effective with taxpayer and donor dollars as is absolutely possible. Because we know that we have to serve people and we have to leverage those dollars. And those dollars in everything we do, that has to be projected out toward our future and how we're going to continue to serve. And in your packets, and this is a lot of information, but you'll see our actual from 2008 to 2017 and the way in which we were able to really very successfully. We lost a great deal of revenue back as a result of the revaluations of real property, and of course the levy revenue decreased significantly by about $850,000 plus a year. And it really, I mean, we dug in. I mean, we drilled down. From 2008, we drilled down into everything we were doing, and we went from 160. Well, I think it was actually 146 full-time equivalents, and now we are at 99, holding steady for the last several years, as you can see, 98, 99, and we don't intend to go beyond that for full-time equivalents. So right now we're on track every year. We're determined to work within that. We have tightened our eligibility guidelines, just as much as we possibly can within federal, state, and regional requirements. So honestly, in concluding just this part of the report, it's very important to us to remain committed, to be responsible stewards. We have one goal, and that's to care for those seniors in our community who need assistance. in order to continue to be residents of our community and live as independently as possible. We worked very hard to do that, and we will continue that commitment into the future. I do want to share a little bit. One of the things, every month I have the staff, I've asked them to provide for me powerful moments kinds of things. And granted, we are subject to HIPAA, and there are a lot of things we can't talk about. But one particular circumstance was a woman did not answer her door when the Meals on Wheels volunteer went to deliver her meals. And so the daughter we didn't know till later, the daughter had been trying to reach her. And immediately when our volunteer did not get a response at the door, he actually called our kitchen, which is the procedure. Our nutrition manager began to immediately follow up, also did not get an answer, called the daughter who lives in Illinois, and she said, I'm very worried too. I've been trying to call for a couple of days. Well, sadly, what had happened, they called the police, and the police were able to break into the house, and she had been robbed. It looked as if it was a very violent burglary, and she was transported at that point to the hospital and was recovering. I think that we hear these kinds of things, not quite to that extent of the traumatic burglary, but where people have fallen. We had another one week before last, another situation where someone had fallen out of his wheelchair, and he couldn't get to the phone, and it was the volunteer who got to the house, and he did not answer. That was enough that sparked the procedures to go into place, and he was able to be transported to the hospital and is doing very, very well. So the services are life-saving on many different levels, and the staff of Clermont Senior Services, they're very, very committed. They're very committed to service with heart, and I'm very proud to work with them.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation today.
Thanks. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Looking down our agenda, and we have a elected officials discussion. Linda Fraley's here. With the concurrence of my fellow commissioners, I'd like to move that up on the agenda. Is that okay? All righty. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Humphrey. Like you said, I'm Linda Fraley, the Clermont County Auditor, and it's kind of a shame that Krista had to leave before I could weigh in on this early intervention. I'm the proud grandmother of a 18-year-old Asperger and a 16-year-old autistic child, and this early intervention does work. My 18-year-old was just accepted by about every engineering school in the Midwest, got a 36 on her ACT, and has been, and music was one of her things that they discovered early on, was one of the things. And then my 16-year-old autistic thing went to the National Geographic B, and scored high in the state, one of the highest. So early intervention, just if I could editorialize that, it is very important. My daughter now is a volunteer. She loses her legal degree to volunteer to lead people to that early intervention. Because if you wait till they're 5 years old or 6 years old, there's a lot of time that it's lost and really makes a difference on there. So I hate to regress, but I just had to speak to that. It just spoke to my heart, that mother, because that's when we got that diagnosis in those years, because you're told of drug use and suicide among these kids, and it's scary.
Yes.
And I could identify with that mother's tears, because we were there. But one of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention and just make a statement, and that's all that is, because of some of the questions that's been coming into the auditor's office. And I know you guys did a press release last week. But in light of the events related to the termination and prosecution of a water resource employee, I would like to set the record straight as to what happened and how the fraud was detected. First, I would like to thank and commend my staff and those collaborating departments and agencies of the sheriff, prosecutor, commissioners, and water resources for their efforts and action to detect and resolve the issue. Our office was able to work together with the vendors and to expose and ultimately resolve this issue based upon internal controls in place. Controls are in place to utilize efficient procurement practices and safeguard taxpayer dollars. No controls are guaranteed to stop fraud. A criminal with purpose can circumvent any system. But the cooperative efforts of county agencies allowed for the detection and rectification of the issue. The issue was exposed and dealt with in the appropriate manner that led to the indictment of the individual. The state auditor's office was informed, and steps were taken to ensure the county would receive restitution. Some people would like to think that this is a black eye on our operations and that we were not transparent with information. Quite the contrary, the system worked. As you well know, you don't divulge information until such time that it does not adversely affect an investigation. My staff and other county employees did their jobs detecting these issues. The controls worked, and as a result, the crime was discovered. Most county departments and agencies use procurement cards in place of credit cards. Our office has previously recommended all county departments and agencies utilize this control as an efficient alternative to credit cards. Procurement cards are different than credit cards due to controls set to limit what type of transaction, the amount of the transaction, and the number of transactions. My office will continue to promote the use of procurement cards and continue to review and monitor controls. Again, I'd like to thank those departments and agencies that work with my office in this process, and also thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have the consent agenda that was mailed to us. Are there any items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda, or may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as prepared?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda from May 2nd, 2018.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. Non-consent agenda begins on page 5 with item 8. And it's a resolution to pay our bills. Resolution number 053-18 in the amount of $898,619.53. Do we have a motion to approve item 8?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Painter.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey.
Aye. Second item, or item number 9, is a recommendation for resolution 54-18, and it's a resolution to pay our bills again in the amount of $18. Do we have a motion to approve that resolution?
I'd much rather make that motion than the first one, but I'll make the motion for item 9.
Second?
Mr. Ubel.
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey.
Aye.
Mr. Painter.
Item 10. Good morning. How are you, Adele?
I'm good. Adele Evans, Assistant Director, Community and Economic Development. Item number 10 is a recommendation of Andy Kukta, Director, Department of Community and Economic Development, with the concurrence of Tom Eigel, County Administrator, to adopt resolution number 56-18, resolving to consent to the dual representation of the Board of County Commissioners of Clermont County, Ohio, and the Board of Township Trustees of Goshen Township, Clermont County, Ohio, by the Clermont County Prosecutor and Assistant Prosecutors in that office, in and as it relates to an Ohio Enterprise Zone Agreement by and between the Board of Township Trustees of Goshen Township, the Board of County Commissioners of Clermont County, Bryan Equipment Sales, Incorporated, and FDR 28 Properties, LLC, for the exemption of real property taxes within the geographical boundaries of the Enterprise Zone in Clermont County, Ohio. We've been working with Bryan Equipment Sales since January on an expansion project in Goshen Township. And as you may be aware, Goshen Township trustees rely on prosecutor's office for legal counsel. So we've done this previously for Millicron enterprise zone tax abatement, where Williamsburg Township trustees are represented by both, or represented by prosecutor's office as well as county commissioners. So this is just being put in place, so when the enterprise zone agreement comes before the township trustees and the Board of County Commissioners later in May, that we're all good.
Okay. Is Brian moving out of Miami Township, or is he just expanding?
They are moving out of Miami Township. They are landlocked and completely out of space, so.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve Resolution 56-18 as presented?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Painter?
Discussion first.
Discussion.
Adele, on the, for the exemption of real property taxes, have any of that been discussed at this point? What that looks like?
So they have made an application, and Goshen Township negotiated 60% for 10 years,
Okay.
is what the township trustees will be taking action on. And then based on the action of the Goshen Township trustees, that will be presented to the county commissioners for action.
Got it.
Any other discussion?
Good.
Roll call?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 11, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Wade?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Item number 11 is a recommendation from myself, Wade Grabowski, with the concurrence of Mr. Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute a contract for minor public improvement projects by and between the Board of County Commissioners of Clermont County, Ohio, and Shaw Contract Flooring Services out of Lockland, Ohio, for the furnishing and installation of tile and grout sealing and cleaning of the floors in the base and all ceramic public areas at the Clermont County Municipal Court, in accordance with the scope of services identified in Exhibit A, attached thereto and made a part thereof, in an amount not to exceed $48,116, with said services to be completed within 120 days of the contractor's receipt of a signed contract and notice to proceed from the Clermont County Facilities Management Department, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions set forth therein.
Do we have a motion to execute the contract for minor public improvement projects as contained in item 11?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Item 12, Mr. Bloom.
Good morning, I'm Lyle Bloom, Director with the Water Resource Department, and item number 12 is a recommendation to execute a contract for services between the Board of County Commissioners of Clermont County and Cintas Corporation out of Milford, Ohio, for the supply and delivery of uniforms, floor mats, and other supplies for the Clermont County Water Resources Department. This is in accordance with the scope of services identified in Exhibit A for an estimated annual amount of $50,000, with said services to be completed within 1,095 days or 3 years of company's receipt of a signed contract and notice to proceed from the Clermont County Water Resources Department, as well as the State of Ohio Participation Agreement in concert with the Ohio Department of Administrative Services contract. And this is pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions set forth therein and contingent upon the release of the purchase order. And this is for uniforms for 88 employees of the Water Resources Department, and includes some safety-related clothing, the FR clothing, and reflective striping on some of the clothing. It's all, the majority of the contract is based on the Ohio Department of Administrative Services contract, which is publicly bid pricing. There are 3 uniform items that were not in part of that contract that were priced independently by Cintas.
Okay. And is this new?
This is a new contract. We currently do have a contract with another company that will expire on May 24th of this year, so this will be the new contract to replace that.
Do we have a motion to execute the contract for services as contained in item 12?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 13, thank you. Hi there.
Good morning.
Morning.
Connie Chibby with the Department of Job and Family Services. Recommendation of Judy Eshman, Director of the Department of Job and Family Services, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute an agreement by and between the County of Clermont, Ohio, and Local 12 WKRC Cincinnati out of Cincinnati, Ohio, for the purchase of television commercials on Local 12 WKRC Cincinnati and Star 64 relative to the promotion of services and programs provided through Ohio Means Jobs Clermont for the purpose of outreach and recruitment of participants for a total amount not to exceed $4,750. It's effective for the period of June 1 of 2018 through July 31st of 18, pursuant to the terms and conditions specified therein and contingent upon the issuance and receipt of a purchase order.
Okay, do we have a motion to execute the agreement as contained in item 13?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item
Thanks,
14.
Connie.
Good morning. I'm Gary Bryant, Court Administrator for Juvenile and Probate Court. I have a recommendation of Judge Shriver, Clermont County Juvenile Court, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to authorize Edwin H. Humphreys, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute Amendment Number 1 to the subgrant agreement by and among the Clermont County Board of Commissioners, the Clermont County Juvenile Court, and the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services for the reimbursement of foster care maintenance, administrative, and training costs relative to the Clermont County Juvenile Court's administration of the Title IV-E program, previously ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on July 19, 2017. To 1, add the Ohio Department of Medicaid as a party to the subgrant agreement for the purpose of allowing the Clermont County Juvenile Court, who has placement and care responsibilities of children, to have read-only access to the Ohio Department of Medicaid's Medicaid Information Technology System, which is the MITS program, and 2 other HIPAA requirements that need to be added to the aforestated subgrant agreement, and for which all other terms of the subgrant agreement and hereby affirmed, including the total amount to be reimbursed not to exceed $1 million for state fiscal years 2018 and 2019, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions specified therein.
Okay. Do we have a motion to execute Amendment Number 1 to the subgrant agreement as contained in item 14?
So moved.
Second the motion.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
And also have item number 15, recommendation of myself, Director of Court Services for the Clermont County Probate Court, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute an agreement for the National Web Check Program services and equipment by and between the Clermont County Probate Court and the Ohio Attorney General, BCI Civilian Quality Assurance, to allow staff of the Clermont County Probate Court to obtain Bureau of Criminal Identification, BCI, civilian background checks, and FBI background checks on all applicants for appointment as a guardian in accordance with the Rules of Superintendents, Ohio Supreme Court governing guardianships, which is Local Rule 6605, effective as of June 1st, 2015, through the National Web Check Program services and equipment at the current rate of $22 for a BCI background check and $24 for an FBI background check, billed based on usage per month, effective for a period of 3 years thereafter, and which supersedes the current agreement heretofore ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on October 7th, 2015, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions specified therein.
Do we have a motion to execute the agreement for National Web Check Program services and equipment as contained in item 15?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Yule?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 16.
Thank you.
Hi, Jim Maloney from the Clermont County Sheriff's Office, Administrator. Item number 16 is contract for law enforcement services with the Board of Monroe Township Trustees. Recommendation of Robert S. Leahy, County Sheriff, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute contract for law enforcement services by and between the Board of Clermont County Commissioners, the County Sheriff, and the Board of Monroe Township Trustees, located 2828 State Route 222, Bethel, Ohio 45106, for the provision of one contract deputy for Monroe Township in the annual amounts of $49,199.86 for the first year, $51,124.02 for the second year and $53,211.44 for the third year. One vehicle in the annual amounts of $2,350 for 18, $8,189.61 for 19, and $8,790.74 for 2020. With the understanding, if the aforementioned contract is not renewed, that the Board of Monroe Township Trustees will be responsible for the third-year reimbursement of the three-year amortization schedule, therefore, in 2021 in the amount of $8,345.73, plus 50% of the fuel cost relative thereto, 50% of the annual fee for uniform equipment replacement and dry cleaning in the amounts of $267.05 for 18, $275.06 in 19, and $283.31 for 2020. 50% of the annual fee for the bullet-resistant vest in the amount of $78 annually, and 50% of the cost associated with one MDC laptop air card for an annual amount of $271.02, effective for a period of 3 years commencing 4/1/2018 through 3/31/2021, pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth herein in compliance with Section 311.29 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Do we have a motion to execute the contract for law enforcement services as contained in item 16?
So moved.
I'll second. I'll second the motion.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Thank you.
Number 17
17.
is also mine. It's reference law enforcement services with the Board of Franklin Township Trustees for same 18-0406-002. Recommendation of Robert S. Leahy, County Sheriff, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eichel, County Administrator, to execute a contract for law enforcement services by and between the Board of Clermont County Commissioners, the County Sheriff, and the Board of Franklin Township Trustees, 981 Hopewell Road, Felicity, Ohio, 45120, for the provision of one contract deputy for Franklin Township in the annual amounts of $42,077.27 for the first year, $46,448.36 for the second year, and $52,528.03 for the third year. One vehicle in the amounts of $925 for 18, $4,344.81 for 19, and $4,145.37 for 2020, plus 50% of the fuel costs relative to thereto, 50% of the annual fee for bullet-resistant vests in the amount of $78 annually, 50% of the costs associated with one MDC laptop card, annual amount of $134.97, plus a one-time startup fee of $2,139 for uniform equipment and $304 for medical cost, and an annual fee of $150 for uniform and equipment replacement and dry cleaning for 2018 and 19, and $200 in 2020. Effective for the period of 3 years commencing 7/1/2018 through 6/30/2021, pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth herein and in compliance with Section 311.29 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Do we have a motion to execute the contract for law enforcement services with Franklin Township as contained in item 17?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 18. Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
Number 18 is a recommendation of Pat Munger, County Engineer, concurrence of Tom Eigel, the County Administrator, to execute a contract for services by and between the Board of County Commissioners and KL New Construction out of Reading, Ohio, for the maintenance of storm structures at various locations throughout Clermont County during calendar year 2018, as stated in the scope of services identified in Exhibit A attached thereto and made part thereof, an amount not to exceed $30,000 pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions set forth therein.
Okay, do we have a motion to execute the contract for services as contained in item 18?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 19.
Item number 19 is a recommendation of Pat Munger, County Engineer, concurrence of Tom Igel, County Administrator, to execute a contract for services by and between the Board of County Commissioners and Geotechnology out of Cincinnati, Ohio, for geotechnical drilling, exploration, evaluation of soil and soil properties, inspection services, and/or construction material testing as needed at any county-owned property or right-of-way throughout Clermont County during calendar year 2018, and as stated in the scope of services identified as Exhibit A, attached thereto and made part thereof, in an amount not to exceed $49,000, pursuant to and compliance with terms and conditions set forth therein, and contingent upon the release of a purchase order.
Okay, do we have a motion to execute the contract for services contained in item 19?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 20. Hi, Vaughn.
Good morning.
Morning.
Ron Smith, Benefit Plan Coordinator for Clermont County. It is my recommendation with the concurrence of Thomas J. Igel, County Administrator, to execute a renewal of the agreement for healthcare consulting services by and between the Board of County Commissioners and Haran Associates for the continuation of professional consulting services relative to the Clermont County Employees Benefits Program in accordance with their proposal for healthcare consulting services for Clermont County, previously ratified by the Board of Commissioners on 5/10 of 2017. And this would be for an additional 12-month period effective 6/1 of 2018 through 5/31 of 2019, for a total amount not to exceed $75,000, which represents the election of the first of two 12-month term extensions, therefore. Pursuant to and in compliance with Article 2 of the aforestated agreement entitled Term and Termination, with all other terms and conditions thereof to remain in full force and effect.
We have a motion to execute the renewal agreement with Haran as contained in item 20.
I'll make that motion.
Second, and before we vote, Yvonne, I know when we put that contract into place, we talked about health savings accounts.
Yes.
Do we still have that out there with this renew? Are we still discussing that?
Yes.
I know
that
we
will be
kind of put
part
that off a month.
Yes, that would be part of the renewal process for 2019.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Yvonne, that $75,000 is not something that we pay them, correct? That is something they get from commissions from the vendors?
Typically.
Okay.
Yes, if there are not enough commissions to pay that $75,000, then we would then have to reimburse them the difference. But we've been with them since, well, for 14 years we've been with Haran, and we have never had to pay them.
And if they get more than the $75,000, then we pay for COBRA, correct?
Yes, well, we don't, they do.
Right, but that money
So,
goes towards paying
yes,
for that.
any money that they have in addition to the 75,000 or in exceeding the 75,000 would then be transferred to our COBRA vendor to cover the cost of COBRA administration.
So Yvonne, we don't have any idea the commission that they do collect every year from us, do we?
Somewhat. As a public entity, they are not required to give us what's called a 5500 form, which is what they would have to give to a private entity. But I actually do collect those. I do request those. And so we do get some idea of what they're collecting on our behalf or on our business. But they get other funds as well that are based on their overall business with certain vendors.
Bonuses or something, yeah.
Correct, and there's no way to determine how much of that is based on our business because it's collective.
But that form, was it 55 you said, or 5,500?
5,500 is what a private business would have to file, or they have to file with a private business every year.
So what is, do you have any idea what Haran is currently getting from us in the way of commissions on an annual basis?
Well, they're getting the 75,000 for sure, and then
But
over the
could go well beyond that. That was my question.
Well, they're not really supposed to be collecting more than that, except for on the voluntary type benefits, they can collect more. So the commissions they get on, say, Allstate, the Allstate business, that's separate from that 75,000. So they do collect a little bit more on that.
Okay.
But anything that's on our regular business that's in excess of $75,000 is either returned to the vendor, but because of the COBRA administration agreement, they actually return that to, or send it to P&A to cover the cost of our administration.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Is that discussion? We have a roll call next?
Did you vote?
Not yet. Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 21.
Commissioners, item 21 is our CURES grant funding through the Mental Health and Recovery Board. I want to give Karen an opportunity to talk a little bit about what is included in those grant funds, because I think they've expanded the eligibility for some of the clients this year. So in the past, we funded the female program with that money, but this year I think they've included the ability for us to fund some of the male clients through medication-assisted treatment. So I'll give her a couple minutes if you'd like, Karen.
Okay, sure. Karen Scherer, the Executive Director of the Mental Health Recovery Board. And to follow up on what Tom said, as we were preparing the proposal for the second year of the funding, I requested that we be allowed to use the dollars across both programs, because I think that is now the way we're conceptualizing the CAS program. It is one program. It just happens to serve both men and women. They have agreed to that proposal. So some of the things that can go across are the cost for medication-assisted treatment, or MAT, the doctor time, which a nurse, which was originally just in the women's, can go across. And basically, we've been given the flexibility to use that money to best serve both populations. What they are also going to have us do then is report on both populations to them, so they get something out of it because they have more to report to the federal government of more people being helped. So we were allowed to request up to $469,756. I did put in the proposal. The proposal was accepted as is, and we were granted the entire amount. So we are actually hoping maybe that some of these funds may be in excess of what is actually necessary to run the program, and we may have some additional dollars to do some other things with. And we have the ability to do that if we have some additional money in there to use it for other costs that may be associated with what we're doing.
Karen, any indication after, I know this was just a 2-year program, but after year 2, that there could be other programs coming down the pike that we could?
I've actually been looking very carefully at what's happening at the federal government because of those billions of dollars that are supposedly set aside. I have seen in the language of both the House and Senate that there is additional CURES money. I would guess that because Ohio continues to be one of the highest states, even though our numbers are going down, other places in Ohio are going up, that there would probably still be CURES money in the future, but what it would be directed towards remains to be seen. And obviously we will have a change in state administration next year, so if they have a different focus or purpose, that could obviously change it. But my guess is there will probably still be CURES money going forward. Whether it be for this purpose or not, though, I don't know. This one definitely ends after 2 years. We've been told that this particular project is a 2-year project.
And we believe CASC is working.
We believe it is working, yes. The number of people being connected to treatment afterwards is in the 80% number. We're getting an awful lot of people who are also getting connected with jobs and working in the community. So we feel pretty positive. I know the numbers are up in terms of census. I think the women's has been about 12 or 13. Men's has been fairly high too. So I think there's been more interest in it, and we're, I think, very, very comfortable with what's going on. I think they've made some changes at the program that I think have improved what's going on too. So I think it's a good project. We continue to have meetings on a regular basis to talk about all the issues, so anything that comes up we can make adjustments to. So we're feeling pretty good about it, yeah.
Aaron, this funding is up to $447,756 because $22,000 of that total grant money is being used for something.
For a recovery coach.
Okay.
Yes, there is a recovery coach that is assigned part-time to CASC and part-time in the community. So the board is paying the rest of that, but $22,000 is for the recovery coach. That was the amount we took out of year 1. They wanted to see a continuation of those things, so the 22 stayed in exactly as it was in year 1. The rest of the money went to the CASC program.
Good. So this is for a period of May 1st, 2018 through April 30th of 2019.
Okay, do we have a motion to execute the sub-grant agreement as contained in item 21?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. And that concludes our agenda, I believe.
Mr. Humphrey, we do have an add-on.
Okay.
Lisa?
Good morning, Lisa Gatwood, Director of Clermont Transportation Connection. It's my recommendation with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to approve the request to advertise for bids for the purchase and delivery of 2 heavy-duty transit buses for the Clermont Transportation Connection pursuant to the specifications therefore, and authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation on 5/10/18 with the bids to be received therefore until 2 p.m. local time on Thursday, August 9th, 2018, in the office of the Board of County Commissioners, 101 East Main, Batavia, where they will be publicly opened and read aloud shortly thereafter. This notice will also be posted on the Contractors Authority's website at www.clermontcountyohio.gov. In order to view the legal notice, click on Legal Notices located on the Clermont County homepage.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the request to advertise for bids as contained in the add-on item?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Before we vote on that, Judy, Lisa, tell me just in general terms, what is the schedule for this procurement? We advertise now, we get bids back. How long do we evaluate bids? When we actually decide on these buses, how long does it take to manufacture? When will we actually see these buses?
The bids will be due August the 9th.
Okay.
The decision to award the bid will be in October, so I'll bring that back to you, if not sooner than that. Then what we'll do is work with that particular vendor. Production schedules, depending on the vendor, may be anywhere between 13 months and 24 months, depending on which vendor is awarded. I've talked recently to Gillig, which is our vendor that provided the 2 vehicles, the large buses that we have now. Their current timeline is about 13 months. However, when they do their production schedule, there may be an agency that has a large order buses in line, and if they change their order and reduce the number lower, our order for 2 buses may be able to move up in the schedule accordingly. So it's very possible that it may start out as a long time frame, but it could very well move forward if they have any vacancies in that production time schedule.
And these buses are actually being purchased with, is it CMAQ? CMAQ?
Yes, this is CMAQ funding.
Okay.
And they'll be used for our downtown service on our Route 4X Amelia Express. That is our biggest ridership route, so these vehicles can accommodate up to 40 passengers.
And Suki, just for my question, when is the committal of these funds taken care of? Is it when we place the purchase, or is when we take delivery of the buses?
The actual payment will be after delivery.
Right.
Okay.
The commitment of the monies will be at the time we do the contract purchase.
Okay.
So that PO will hang out there in essence until.
Right.
Okay. That's all I have.
We have a motion to approve the request for advertising for bids. Did we have that already?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we need a roll call. Thank you.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And no other add-ons?
No other add-ons, just executive session.
So we have a need for executive session pursuant to 121.22 G1 and G3 of the Ohio Revised Code to first consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, promotion, or compensation of one or more public employees, and 2, to confer with prosecuting attorney regarding pending or imminent litigation respectively. Do we have a motion to go into executive session under those 2 sets of codes?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Yubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. We'll be back. Okay, we're back from executive session. No decisions were made. And it's 12:41. And we have time now for public participation. I don't see anyone in the audience, so I presume there is no one that would like to participate, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Prior to us getting a motion to adjourn and to end this meeting,
Yes.
I would just like to ask if today is any kind of special day for you today?
No. Last Sunday was
Last Sunday was your
birthday.
birthday. Absolutely.
Yep.
Well,
29th.
Yep, April 29th, last Sunday.
happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much.
Happy
Birthday, Ed.
Happy birthday, Ed.
We got to spend birthday with my oldest son, and he had brisket for us, so it was great in the evening.
I missed that invitation.
Yeah, well,
You know, maybe next year.
hey, maybe next year. Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Yubel?
Yes.
Humphrey?
Aye. That concludes our business for today. Thanks for joining us, and God bless.